So this is a quick overview of the main 18HE. This is the assembly for the main heat exchanger. I think if I'm right, this was a B rated boiler. So simply gas burner down at the bottom, main heat exchanger, secondary heat exchanger, fan, flow and return. So now I'm going to show you how it works. So if you imagine at the top here, the natural fresh air comes through the sides, comes into the casing here, gets drawn from here, flames come up here through the main heat exchanger, creating heat that's dissipated into this main heat exchanger. The water that's inside is circulating around your heating system, radiators, coil inside of the hot water cylinder. The heat then, once dissipated into here, goes through into the fan. So this is the flow pipe. So this is the water that will be coming out of the heat exchanger hot. On here, overheat stat. This is a dry pocket. What that means is if you take it out, you won't get flooded with water, and it's the same on the thermistor, both dry pockets. So if we remove the fan first, so if you imagine when the fan's running, it's drawing hot air through the heat exchanger, through here. That hot air is then passed through the secondary heat exchanger. So if we move this out of the way, you can see the top fins of the main heat exchanger. From here, the air that is drawn through here is still hot. It still has some residual temperature left in it. So it then passes through this. This is a secondary heat exchanger, which essentially, if I take it apart, so inside of there you can see the vanes which allow the air to pass through effectively, go from one side to the other. On the second chamber, it then passes through here, comes up through the top. If we pull the top off, you can see the secondary chamber. So it passes from one side through here, comes back up and goes through and out to the flue. Meanwhile, inside of here, it can create blockages and this aluminium oxide. The aluminium oxide is because the condensate water is acidic and the aluminium is reactive against acids. So what it does is it degrades, hence you get this grey material. And if you look on here, you will see the pitting and the way it deforms and degrades, so you can get corrosion on the seals. So meanwhile, if you imagine this is getting warm inside of here, all of these, inside of here is a coil of the flow and the return. So if you imagine the return pipe from your central heating is coming back through here, so the cooler temperature out of your heating system goes through here, the heat from here is dissipated back into this and then sent back into the heat exchanger to be heated up and back out the flow pipe. That's in essence what it is. So one other thing to note on these, on the flow, on this thermistor here, there are two pockets. So there's the main captive nut, and I'll show you. So the main captive nut sits in there and sits in there and keeps that a dry pocket. Unfortunately, sometimes if you take this out and it takes that secondary bit out, guess what? That is no longer a dry pocket. You're going to get very wet. You must keep that secondary pocket locked into that main heat exchanger. Yeah, so that would stay in. And you would merely undo the second one. That would keep it dry. Hope that makes sense. So in a service, it would be nice to flush this through, make sure all of this is clean. But in reality, no one ever does. This would get it clean. So the main Potterton casing is very similar to the original Superima, except for there would be a pin here for it to lock into, and where that would be PCB and stuff, it's now underneath the boiler, and that's taken up by this. That's it in essence.